we want to talk about what's happening in Texas, because Texas is experiencing something that I think is unfortunately all too near and dear to our hearts. Let's take a look here at some of this video. And if you haven't already seen, Texas is dealing with some devastating flooding that came not even really during a proper tropical system, but they're talking about rivers that have crested to some historic levels and rainfall amounts. And this is where, Jared, I really was seeing Helene in some of this data, because when you take a look at some of the rainfall totals that have occurred in Texas, and those amounts are 21 or 22 inches here, that is very reminiscent, unfortunately, of what we saw with Helene not but 9 months ago. And that is unfortunately why the headlines at this hour on Saturday have now risen the death toll from the Texas flooding to 50. And that is as a desperate search continues for over 20 young girls who remain missing from a camp. That includes 27 people from Camp Mystic. Authorities are still racing to try to find them. At least 50 people are confirmed dead as of this Saturday night, including 15 children who have been confirmed to have unfortunately perished during this historic flooding. And I can only hope for the best for those families who are continuing to search for their loved ones at this hour, and am fearful for the progression that these headlines have been making over the last day or two, Jared.
Yeah, absolutely. And again, this is one of those situations where a true flash flood.
Absolutely.
There's been I saw a graph of the Guadalupe River go from 2 feet to 20 in the course of 2 hours or less.
And I've seen videos, and you may have seen them on social too. It's like it took 2 hours to get to the peak of its disastrous level. But there are other videos circulating on social that show that in 90 seconds, bridges and things went underwater. In 90 seconds, the river went from being just a quote unquote normal river to debris flow. And I tweeted before, Jared, and I'm sure you can relate to this, but it's like when you're looking at something on social media, our TikTok brains are so accustomed that 90 seconds is an eternity. It might as well be an Avengers movie. If you think I'm going to stop swiping and watch something for 90 seconds. But think about 90 seconds through the perspective of the people who are standing there and witnessing this. You have 90 seconds to move your loved ones to high ground, to grab any essential belongings that you might have with you. 90 seconds is blink of an eye. And like you just said, Jared, this is the literal definition flash flood.
Yeah, absolutely. And again, you see the rescue operations by the Texas Game Wardens going on there in the B-roll there. And I think the other thing that's important to note too is that this was a case where the Weather Service did have warnings out. They did have, and they were escalating. They went to the highest tier. They went to the flash flood emergency. They toned a bunch of phones. I know that Texas uses wireless emergency alerts somewhat liberally, and maybe too much at times. And from what I've read, and what from folks on the ground that live in Texas, they have been turning their emergency alerts off because law enforcement agencies, unfortunately, they were using them a good bit, and for things that I'm not sitting in the seat, so I don't know, but the problem is that the overwarning is an issue.
It's a hard balance, right? Of trying to make sure everyone is properly receiving what they need and everyone is transmitting what they need. And I'm not trying to walk down the middle here. I mean, I think you're right. It's like the warnings went out, but I was thinking the same thing. I was looking back. Dr. Marshall Shepard, University of Georgia, wrote a piece in Forbes, kind of walking through the timeline of here the warnings went out, then the emergency went out, and it makes me go, are we using the right jargon? Are we using the right words? Because in my own experience, before Helene, the National Weather Service broadcast meteorologists were saying catastrophic flash flooding will occur. I didn't have any sense of what that word, right? So when we say we went from a flash flood warning to a flash flood emergency, you and I know what that means. Probably a good number of people who watch the show knows what this means. But do most people understand the magnitude, the significance of that jump?
Yeah,
I don't know.
Yeah, you can't really fathom that unless you see it, right?
Right.
And it's a hard thing to picture. And we did a whole show about this, about the warning process in Helene, and just how difficult it is to get people to picture things that they have never seen before, things that we had never seen before, and that is the case here. And unfortunately, there's people now have a reference point, and that's
Yeah.
pretty frightening. But I think it's important for us to watch this footage as well, because it gives us a reference point, and it gives you at home a reference point for when that warning goes off. And if they say catastrophic flooding,
We all know what that means now.
got to do it. Got to take it
Yeah.
seriously.